Everybody, what's going on? Welcome to another episode of Personal Mastery Training. And I feel right now if you're a regular listener to us, this is a vital episode, really vital right now. So like, subscribe, and share with someone because by the time we're done, I'm absolutely certain it's going to be a very valuable information that you will want to share. So today's conversation is how to survive, how to get through this stressful time. We're going to give you tools, priming tools to help you to get through and get from this time that we are going through right now. Worldwide. This is worldwide. This is not, uh, you know, endemic or, special to me, Brandon, Ray, you, the listener. It's worldwide. It's affecting everyone. And the level of tension right now around the world and impatience and intolerance and so on is elevating. And at the end of the day, despite all of this chaos that we are perceiving, a lot of us just want peace. We literally, the mass of people. There's a few who will dive in and let this thing consume them. But there's a larger mass who just want peace, who just want to go home, enjoy a day in their life with their family, their friends, the old times. You remember the old times when carefree living? But right now, the tension is so across the board, and it's having a massive effect on people's psychology, your ability to dream, to wish for the future, the best for the future, your family. It's creating tension in families and friends and breaking apart. Division is here. So we want to, one, touch on the conversation, two, and give you strategies because you have to realize something I realized is that people who are a certain way, whether you look at someone who's successful, someone who's happy, someone who has a great disposition, someone who's anything, a winner, it's not by luck. It's just not by luck. It's intentional. You must be intentional. Do not let at this time in our life and our history, do not drift. Do not be the drifter who is eyes are closed, fingers are crossed, and you're hoping for the best. Do not do that. This is not the time to do that. Now is the time to come awake to things that are in your control, not to the madness going on, but to things that are in your control. This is what we want to talk about is what is in your control and what can you do about it? How can you put yourself in a state realizing that winners win for a reason, not random. Happy people are happy for a reason, not random. They didn't born happy. There's no DNA for happiness. That it's a happy family, so they must be in their DNA. No, it's a practice, and we're going to talk about that. So that's the opening that I want to go do, and I want to quickly, go to my co-hosts today. We have Brandon and Ray with me, the Alliance, and again, in honor, rest in peace, Charlie. He would be with us. He's still with us. So I want to switch over to them, pass the mic to them to give us an opening on their what's going on with them and how this time, this podcast is crucial for them. So pass the mic.
Go ahead, Brendan. I'll follow suit.
No, I think it's always an appropriate topic. Sometimes it feels as though it's more appropriate, right? Or it's the best time for this conversation. But we've had this conversation before. We've talked about this whole alliance, and podcast is really about that personal excellence, but also what comes with to even achieve personal excellence, it's personal responsibility. We've all heard the phrase, no one's coming to save you kind of thing, right? You have to nothing is just given to you or just dropped in your lap. Sure, it may appear and seem that way for others, but even in those situations, I tend to believe that somebody had to work for it, right? And at the end of the day, you're responsible for the way your life is. You're responsible for your personal health, your personal finances, your own personal happiness. And a lot of that starts, for me, I believe it starts with your mindset and your mindset readiness, right? What do you want? And then also, I mean, there's a lot of things I want, but you have to be willing to do the work. You have to be willing to do what needs to be done, whether it's sacrifice, long hours, maybe it's learning a new skill, maybe it's getting up and going to the gym when you don't want to, right? Some of the best workouts I've ever had have been when I have really been sitting on the couch, or I've been driving home after a really long day thinking, I'm exhausted. I do not want to do this. And it's like, no, but I have to if I want to get to here, if I want to reach my goals. And then I do it, and it's like, man, I'm so glad I did it. But I had to sacrifice sleep, or I had to sacrifice that downtime of just sitting on the couch. And I'm not saying that that's not valuable, having that downtime to relax, but it's you gotta weigh it out. You got to make a determination, or you got to decide what do you truly want, and you got to go after it and take responsibility. With that, I'll pass the mic to Al or Ray.
Yeah, man. One question I'll send out to the audience, everyone listening, and even to you guys. Would you say that in some way, shape, or form, everyone is a leader, or everyone has some type of leadership? I believe so. No matter what your role is, no matter where you are, you will be put in certain situations or certain areas of your life where you are also a leader.
100.
So that term of acceptance is so important too, where there are certain things we can't continually run away from and look for someone else to do. Brendan talked about responsibility. I agree with that 100%. I also love the fact and try to remind myself of that every single day, that leaders lead, and leadership, personal leadership, is our responsibility. Okay? It's not someone else's. So if I accept that, if I take if I take responsibility of my actions of my life, then I need to lead somewhere. To get out of a crisis doesn't happen randomly. We need to lead out of that crisis. We need leadership to go towards our goal. We need leadership to get towards a certain outcome. A lot of things come into that. So that would be my thing. It's just reminding ourselves that whether we like it or not, whether we want to or not, we are responsible of leading where we need to lead. Okay? And we are leaders. And leaders gotta lead. In any situations when things go bad, is because a lot of leaders decide that, they want to just pass the ball to someone else and not take ownership of leading. Okay, so the way I see it, and I have conversations about that every single week, because we deal with human beings, okay? Human beings. And a lot of problems that I see, oftentimes, it's not the problem, because both people want to get to a certain outcome, want to get to a certain solution, but they forget to lead. They forget to actually bring their parts, bring themselves in the conversations to make it better. So there are always steps, there are always processes to help us do that if we don't know how to do that. The first one I would just tell people about is make sure that you put things on the table, not by looking at someone else's, but by looking at ourselves and talking in terms of me. That's why I love what you talked about, Brendan, when you talked about personal responsibility. Because if I have an issue, if this is going on, hey, here's how I see it, here's how I feel. Am I right? Do you feel the same thing? Where can we go from here? You extend a hand, you build a bridge, and that bridge the other person can now express themselves, and then we can come to some type of diagnosis and understanding because it's all on the table. Now you see what I'm feeling. I didn't point fingers at you, I'm just telling you how I see it, and I want to truly know, out of respect for you and out of finding a solution, how do you see it? Then from there, hey, we look at the reality of things. We've been able to take a step back and we can diagnose because we can better understand. When we understand something, I'm also of the mindset where there's always a solution. Okay, there are better ones and there are lesser ones, but there are options. Let's work together to actually turn over the rocks and find the best option. Okay, by discussing it, and from there we find a solution. So this is a small process that works basically for anything, whether it's in a relationship, in a work setting, with your team, with your children. It doesn't matter, right? So what processes do we have in our toolbox that we can go to, okay, so that we can just get out of this mindset of just reacting to everything, and remembering that we are leaders and we have the power to lead and we have the responsibility to lead if things are going to get better. There's no way around it. Okay, let's take full ownership of our leadership and remember that we are leaders. So, with that, I'll pass the mic.
Yes, 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 yes. Some great points. I'm going to touch on a few things. I just finished writing something here in response. All right. So, Brandon mentioned something that he said, sometimes he's coming home and he's tired and, he's contemplating, oh, I should go to the gym, but I'm not. I would rather take a pass and go home. It's just, I'm fatigued, tired, had a long day, whatever it might be. And what I wrote here is this: but he then goes to the gym and he feels better for doing it. See, this is the difference. This is what I'm getting at. Where in times of stress and distractions and tension, and we tend, for humans, it's so funny, we humans. I think Tony Robbins had a great metaphor, a great analogy of this. He says, if you're when he was learning to drive fast, with his instructor in the car, going speeding around the track, the instructor told him, you're going to be seeing the guardrail right beside you, and it's going to obviously be coming. But he said the car will go in the direction where you keep your head, where you keep your focus. The car will go in that direction. Do not look at the guardrail. But our tendency is, as we're going fast, is to stare at the guardrail, and then your car ends up going in the guardrail. But the tendency is to take your head and get it back to where you're going. You'll want to look at don't look. So in this time that we're in right now, or if you're going through, forget this time, any time in your life, when you're going through stuff, deadlines at work, I'll keep it simple. Deadlines at work, some stress at home, a little bit of this, a bit of that. We tend to default to sitting in it. I think I don't know who it was on this call a while ago, said the past is a great teacher to look at, just don't stare at it. Did anyone on this call say that? Was that Brendan? Yeah. You're on mute, Brand. Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay to look back.
Yeah.
Just
But
don't
just don't
stare.
stare. Bingo. And that's what we tend to do. We tend to do that with our present and our. So if we're going through stress, we tend to want to sit. It's just a human nature thing, because there's three things we do under stress, right? Fight, flight, freeze. So when stress gets overwhelming, we have a tendency to freeze. And freeze means leaning into distractions, doom scrolling today, just as a way of stress management. But it's not. It's feeding the stress, and you're getting more and more stress, and that's why during a time people throw away their peak performance habits and they start to really look at the stress. I'll give you an example. My son, most of the listeners, I'm not sure if you know, but unfortunately, my son passed away less than a year ago. from cancer, a very brave, strong battle with cancer. He passed away, and he spent 14 weeks, 11 weeks in ICU, somewhere around there. And it was intensive care is intensive for everyone involved. And during that time, I maintained my every day I would go and work out. And even when he came out of intubation and sedation, he would know, oh, Dad, there you are. And then I would tell him, we'd have a conversation, and I would say, I'm gonna go work out. I'd say, okay, Dad. He knew. But here's what I know: is working out so important to me that I can. Here's what's important to me. I knew that a couple things. I knew this too shall pass, and I didn't. Obviously, I did not. I thought the passing would be a positive pass through this, but obviously, it didn't work out in our favor. But it's went through. But I have a wife and 3 other kids, and depending on me, I have to. In order for me to show up more powerfully, I had to lean into my the habits that make me stronger. And for me, my priming tool was getting there and making my body strong, my mind strong, and having some control over. That's my only sense of control. I have control nothing else but the way I show up to this gym and work out and feel my muscles and feel strong. And then I come back and I know he even sees me and says, everything's going to be okay. I could see my dad still doing what he does. That gave him a sense of a lighthouse. Because if I sat there and held a vigil and cried and be in front of him weakened, I believe it would not have given him that extra strength he needed. And my family too, they also looked to Ray talked about leadership. They looked over to me and said, how bad is this? Well, if you're not going to work out, this is bad. But, we made it through well. So my point is this. I use an example as extreme as that. It happened to me. This is not a hypothetical. I doubled down on those things that made me stronger. So what our human nature is, lean into the mess, look at the wall. For some reason, we think doubling down on the stress and the moment we're in is going to help. It doesn't typically, because what our brain does, it shuts down, and your prefrontal doesn't think about solutions because you're so deep in your emotional connection to this thing that you can't see the amygdala and all the centers of emotions take over, and you get myopic. You don't see solutions. And that's what's happening today. And they're playing into this. This is why, again, we got to remember, if it bleeds, it leads. This is how the newspapers, the old saying, if it bleeds, it leads. It gets front page if it bleeds. So why? Because we're fighting. In today's world, it's an attention era. We live in a world of attention is money. Attention is everything today. That's why influencers were created, because they get attention. So Brandon brought that up, that's one of the strategies for priming, is do the things when it's uncomfortable, because that moment when it's uncomfortable is a signal to you that you need to do the thing. If it's healthy thing, do the thing. So Raymond, now, he was talking about leadership is essential. I love the wisdom that says everyone wants to be a lion until they got to do what lions do. Do you want to be a leader? Well, this is the time. This is the perfect time to show leadership. And this is one thing I got to say, Charlie. One of the things we talked about during the pandemic was this part. This is when his business actually took off. When things were shut down and things were tense, and everything started to switch to the color issue and all of this race stuff going on, he actually thrived in that time. Why? Because they needed a voice of reason, and he doubled down, and that's when his business actually took off. So in times of great stress, in times of chaos, this is the time when you want to be a leader, you want to do what lions do, this is the time to do what lions do. This is not the time to back up. This is time to move forward and lean into it. So, and I wrote here also, Raybon also said, let's work together and find a solution. He was saying that during these times, this is the time we should work together and find a solution. But Look at the division today. The division today is saying you are this, I am that. You're over on that side of the fence, I'm over here. This division that's created, ubiquitous in our society, is it not allowing us to have these conversations. It's not allowing us to talk and for a rational solution. We're all into the reactionary mode. And this shows us again how it plays into that emotional side. And remember, uh, genetically and phylogenetically, the way the brain's developed is developed from bottom up. So the bottom of your brain is the basic brain that was created, and that brain was fight, flight, freeze, and have sex, procreation. That's the basic brain. The newer brain, the neocortex, is brand new. It's got the whole decision making, executive functioning, all that kind of thing. This is where we start inventing tools, and otherwise we're just surviving. We're dragging our knuckles and for surviving, build, procreation. Now we have this, but the problem is when we're fatigued, we default to the oldest brain because it's always going to be there. And so we default. That's why when people get drunk, when they get fatigued, when they get tired, this is why when they capture prisoners of war, they make them fatigued so they can give up the secret. They keep them awake. They torture them because then the fatigue makes cowards of us all. We start to default. So again, these are all reasons why we need to put our mask on first. We need to do the things that will empower us because a lot of us are getting fatigued by now. And it's making us do things and say things, and families aren't talking to each other right now. Things are just decaying, and we're not respecting each other's words and not giving each other space. So I'm going to come back with my next reply will be, what do we do now? So I've laid out the problem. So what do we do? So I'm going to lean to my brothers now I'm going to pass the mic, and then we'll come back into let's take some action. And what do we do with it? All right, pass it
Yeah,
over.
it's good stuff. So, you mentioned there's a couple words in there I could build off. And we could stay right where we're at for a long period of time talking about that. But the word, the attention, right? We're in an attention era right now is so true.
Absolutely, millions of dollars, billions.
It's all by design. This is all constructed. It's
Beautiful.
intentional,
Oh,
and
of course.
it's intentional what's happening.
Yes.
And that same word, it is critical as individuals for personal mastery, personal excellence, personal responsibility. You have to be intentional with what you're focused on.
Yeah.
The race car driver, you talked about Tony Robbins. And I could go, you look at impaired drivers under the influence of alcohol or a substance. It's through studies and research. If they look over here at the light, that's why they have head-on collisions. They're focused over here rather than on the road, right? Or
Mm-hmm.
their lane, so to speak. It's really no difference. We are currently, this attention era we're in, we are being impaired by whether it's misinformation or distractions, right? The stress, you talked about the stress. It could be anything. It doesn't have to be through social media and political. It's just simply all the things going on in our lives, and our brain is focused on that stress rather than being focused on the goal, right? And
Mm-hmm.
hyper focused at that, and those folks that are winning, the people that are leading, that are achieving that personal excellence, achieving personal mastery, they are hyper focused on the goal that they want for themselves, for their family, their business, whatever it may be. And they're not doom scrolling all day.
Mm-hmm.
They're not reading the headlines of if it bleeds, it leads. They're not focused on that. Sure, there's a value to be informed and to check in, but if you get consumed by it, if you start feeling emotionally some way, shape, or form, you need to stop yourself and check yourself
Mm-hmm.
and pull back and realign, right? And you have to ask, is it intentional? Does this benefit me and what I'm trying to do? And then also those I'm trying to lead, right? Do I need to get consumed by this right now?
Mm-hmm.
Or do I need to continue to focus on what I'm doing and the goal at hand? So with that, I will pass the mic.
Just before Ray jumps on, Brandon. While it's hot in my mind, Brandon brought up the idea that to be informed. There's a big difference to being informed and uh, being gluttonous, and we don't need the same story. Like I heard about Minneapolis. Now to watch it 24/7 for the next 7 days is now too much.
Yeah.
Being informed means I know I'm aware. The rest is just
Yeah.
15 ways to look at it. Now it's
Or
going to make you psych
reading
out
every single comment.
about the,
Right.
yeah,
No.
yeah, that's going to make you crazy. Okay, there's a big difference because I understand people have argued with me before, but Alvin, you can't put your head in the sand. You got to be informed. Yeah, I'm fully aware of everything going on, but I don't need to watch it for 24 hours. Anyways, we'll move on, right?
Mm. I'll say, going back to fundamentals, the simplest, most obvious things. When we think about it, when someone isn't comfortable with their weight and the way that they look, instead of maybe looking at their portions and when they eat, well, oftentimes they're gonna dive in and do more of the things that make them like that, right? So they have the solution already, but it's really just going back to fundamentals. And I'll say one thing that Charlie always used to say. He used to talk about. He used to love talking about compounding. Compounding. I feel that when we double down on our strengths, they compound. Same thing when we double down on our weaknesses. So it's really about making a choice. If I want to avoid more, okay, if I want to feel bad and I double down on these things, they're just going to be bigger in my life. Well, the little actions that we take that might not make a big of a difference now, or that seem like they don't make that big of a difference now, in the long run they compound, just like every single workout that Alvin decides to go to. Okay, that one workout today might not change everything, but because he's doing it over and over and over again, that changes everything. Same things for the hard conversations that we need to have, whether with other people or ourselves. Same thing when we decide to be honest with ourselves. Same things when we decide not to just jump to conclusions and really figure out what's actually going on. All of that actually doubles down. Okay, so let's make that choice of doubling down on the little things that compound positively with our strengths and not our weaknesses. That would be the main thing I would focus on, when it comes to actually elevating over this whole thing, because we all have that power every single day to make choices. And we know what's a good choice for us, we know what's a bad choice for us. It's just about us doubling down on the little things that really, really compound towards the goals and towards the outcome that we actually want to achieve. And with that, I'll pass the mic.
All right, so let's dive right into great point. Let's dive right into the. So we've listed. Everyone is aware of what's going on. Um, there's no secret. So what do we do about it? So here's what I'm going to suggest: priming tools. One of the things that I wasn't aware of when I was competing or in business speaking, whatever it might be. I did not when I was competing earlier. It was always a frustration actually for me because I worked hard. I was the first one in, last one out. I put in, if you told me to run 6 miles, I run seven. I always put in the work because I really wanted. I thought I was going to go all the way into the Olympics and, in my sport, and I was going to do all these great things. And it didn't work out. And always scratch my head whenever I got to the tournament, I would choke. And I didn't, it was so frustrating because I felt like $1 million during practice. And then I changed the dynamics of what I put pressure on myself, and next thing you know, I'm performing like somebody else. I didn't even know who that guy was. Here's what I didn't realize: winners win because they put themselves in a state. They don't hope that they win. They prepare by putting themselves in a mental state. And I don't know, back in my day in the 90s and 80s, if they knew about psychology and they even bother with that. But I think they unconsciously did it. The winners really did. I remember watching my wife, who was a dancer. She was a great dancer. Um, did very well at it, and she used to rehearse in her mind all the routine. And I picked up dancing too with her. I started dancing with her when I was very young, but I just got to the show and stressed out about getting on stage. I didn't realize she went through the routine in her head in bed. She went through the routine in her head when she was there, and she didn't know about visualization psychology, but she just did it naturally. She just went through. So that was her mental preparation. I didn't know that though. I just showed up and lights went up and I went blank, and I didn't realize, all the choreography went out of my head. And when I went to boxing, same thing would happen. I would show up, and if I did well, I didn't ask questions. If I did bad, I felt bad. I just didn't sit and reflect. So then I had the greatest opportunity. This is when it really hit me. I had the greatest opportunity to do some security actually for Tony Robbins. And I realized that he goes in his room, and I heard him say this on his tapes back in the day and all this. But, it's just information. I didn't really take it in. But he went in his room before he went on stage, and he took about 20 minutes or so. And when he came out of that room, he was sweating. He had beads of sweat rolling down his forehead, and then he was ready to go on stage. He did not just everybody get on stage and hope it turned. No, he became the thermometer, and he set the stage for the room. He set the temperature for the room. He didn't wait for the room to receive him. He said, "Here I am, and I'm going to change you." So, and when you look at a lot of athletes, they arrive early and they go through the routine on the field, and the real good ones are early before everybody else gets here, and they run it through. They run a routine. So this is when I realized that in order for to be happy, again, these people are not random. They have ways of putting themselves in a state, because everybody has stress. Everyone has the same amount or less or more of stress, but it's how you prep yourself and how you prepare for it. So here's a routine that I go through in the mornings now. Again, non-negotiable. I work out every day, 7 days a week. Is that crazy? Some people say rest. Oh, you could work out too much. Here's what I realize. The human body, we hunted and gathered to find our food and moved, and we didn't sit like we do now. I don't give myself a badge of honor for 2 days a week, 3 days a week. I work out every day. And does it have to be a hard workout? No. I move every day. If you want to call it move, I move every day. That's how I empower myself. I listen to positive things, music. I love music. I journal on a daily basis. I meditate on a daily basis to put myself in a state. Um, because meditation allows, remember at the beginning, I talked about under stress, we tend to default to that lower brain. Well, the way you can avoid that or mitigate it anyways, is through meditation, through a sense of mindfulness, where you can watch yourself be a jerk, watch yourself lose it, and then go, that's not like you. And you start to bring yourself back. It forces you from becoming myopic to having a grander vision. So what are your peak performance routines? Is it just getting up, hitting the snooze button or the alarm, running into the shower, grabbing a coffee, running out the door? Is that actually a peak performance routine? Because I'm going to tell you, that's not working. For me, it wouldn't work. Running on adrenaline, hoping it turns out okay, then doesn't work. And also in my position, being a father, number one, a partner, a business owner, who my business is face front people every day, giving my energy, podcasting, coaching. Those 3 hours of the morning are my holy mornings, and 95% or more of the times they're non-negotiable. No one's up. There's a strategic reason why I get up early and do those things, because I want to be there for my family, and I don't want to put important things in where important things already are, like making money, putting a roof over my head, hanging out with my family. So I get up early, I sacrifice a little bit of sleep, quality, 8 hours, getting up. I get a decent amount of sleep, and I put in there the workouts. Then I can come back and that's why I have my naps and my meditation during the day to bring everything back in order. So, what are your peak performance routines? Mine are meditation, mine are mindfulness, journaling, working out, get my body strong before I start my day. And it opens me up. Now, after 8 a.m., the day belongs to the world. And I'm okay with that. I'm not resentful because I already had my 3 hours. So, with that, I want to share that with you to build in your peak performance routine. I put you in a state of strength and happiness, especially in today's times. You do not drift. Do not expect to be happy. Do not expect to be balanced. Do not expect to get through this with your fingers crossed. You must take control. We remember we're co-creating our lives. We have some control over some things. The 50%, let's call it 50-50, that you have control over, I'm going to invite you to claim it back again and do something with it. So with that, I pass the mic.
I always love a good conversation around action. In order to achieve anything, make a difference, whether it's in your life or in others. I go think about what Ray said early on about leading, that we're all leaders. Are we all leaders? I just had this conversation yesterday at work, or I'm sorry, Friday at work, to a group of individuals about every individual in the room is a leader. Somebody is looking up to you, even if you're the new person, right? Somebody new is going to come along and they're going to look up to you, right? It's just it's guaranteed to happen. Whether it's at work or in your personal life, you're going to come across someone. We're all leading, and leading takes action. Excuse me. Leading takes action, and everything you just mentioned there, Al, it is action, right? Being intentional with your time, prioritizing your time. It all takes action. Prioritizing and ensuring. I loved what you just said about don't put things where important things are, right? Don't you're essentially you're sacrificing things and stuff, and sometimes they may be very important, but it's in place of something else that's important for you. Your example was your time with your family, your mornings, and it's so 5 o'clock in the morning, 4 a.m. Oh, and we start listening to this little voice of excuses, and when you hear it or you catch yourself, we have to be in tune, and very, very aware of the self talk and those voices in your head, right? And they're real, but it's us. Sometimes it's what other people have said to us, but focusing on our own voice telling us, we don't have time. Oh, I don't want to do that. You got to stop. You got to stop it and talk back to it and say no. I am, because I have this goal, right? I want to do this. I want to be a leader. I want to make a difference. And not only do I want to, I'm going to take action and I'm going to do it. So action is everything. Regardless, if you're the type of person you need to make a task list, great. If you want to use modern technology and use your phone and reminders, great. If there's an app, fine. If you need to get a coach, like one of these two incredible individuals on this call, on this podcast, whether it's Al or Ray, get a coach. But don't just not just think that, I'm just I'm going to be fine. I'm going to do it, right? You've got to put pen to paper. You've got to take some sort of action to keep yourself accountable. Maybe it is a visualization board. Maybe it is a calendar. That routine, for some people, it is starting out small. I'm going to get up. I'm going to take my vitamins, brush my teeth. I'm going to take a shower. Maybe I'm going to meditate for 5 hours, or for 5 minutes, excuse me. Not 5 hours. That's pretty advanced there. But I'm
Right.
going to meditate. Start small, right? Or just journal for a few minutes, or read something to clear your mind, or to focus in on what you need to do to reach your goals and to take action. With that, I'll pass the mic.
Love it, guys. One thing I'll talk about is principles. what are your principles? That's another thing that's so important too. And I'll give my first football analogy, but in football, there's a lot of talk into that when it's about building great teams and building a culture. I'll give you a couple ones. Certain teams, they preach no complacency, because especially when the talent's there, when the team is good, it's very easy to start feeling good about yourself. And no complacency means it's really isn't about the score or winning or losing anymore. It's about the standard at which you show up and you play every single day. And we're not going to accept any complacency. So when you reach a standard like that, it gets into people's minds, it gets into your core, and you just get that, okay, this is the expectation here. Or just the one more time principle where, okay, the coaches gave you the goal of doing 10 reps on the bench press. That's the coach's expectation. But for you, hey, one more rep. Anything that's been asked of you, you go one more. Okay, so you get into that mindset of pushing a little bit further every single time. So in every teams that I've played on, every coach I've been around, they had these great principles that whenever I saw teams adopting these principles fully, great things happen. I'll share one with you guys real quick. I think it was a great one. A team back here in Montreal, Canada, but they have commandments. Okay, and I think years back I've said them on the show, but those commandments, they're done every single game right before tip off as a team, and the first one is very important. And mark my words, I'll explain it, but it says respect nobody. And it doesn't mean you don't respect your opponent. You have full respect for your opponent. What it means is it doesn't matter how good they are, it doesn't matter what their ranking is. You're here for a reason, they're going to have to show you. Okay, they're gonna have to show you. So don't get into the game having this mindset of, oh wow, this is a big mountain, I don't know, I'm gonna climb it, I can't be here, I need to go back. No, 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 you are here and you are ready and you're meant to be here. The second one was no fear, play physically, right? So in football terms, obviously that was our identity, is being physical. Okay, if you're physical, good things happen, and no fear. But in life or anything we do, what stops us most of the time? It's fear. Okay, it's fear. And the thing that fear does, okay, is that it gets really big, it makes a lot of noise, it moves in every direction, and then people run away. Well, if you stand still and take time to actually look at the situation, then you start to see holes and cracks, and you start to see what is truly in front of you, and then you realize, hey, maybe it might not be something as scary as I thought it was. Okay, so just getting into that habit of understanding, hey, it's okay to be scared, but all you need is just to be a little bit braver than you are afraid. Okay, and if you get into that habit every single day, you start to see through that fear and you start to see the truth. The next commandment, I wrote it down, it was remember your job. Okay, don't try to be somebody else. Don't try to change the game plan today. You've worked on something, you've got better at it, you've did the work. Okay, you have the habits. When it's time for game day, when it's time for that new job, when it's time for that new opportunity, hey, just remember your job. Okay, do your task, do what you're supposed to do. The next one was having fun. Oftentimes we just forget. I think it's Rumi that said that the goal in this life is to enjoy. If we don't enjoy what we do, if we don't enjoy waking up in the morning, just breathing, even walking outside, and what are we doing? Let's not forget to enjoy and to have fun. And the last one, which is my favorite, and it sounds self explanatory, but it's really important, it's to win. And by winning, it's not just about the scoreboard, as I said, is your individual matchup. Are you giving your full effort, okay, into everything that you're doing? Are you doing things with the intent to win? With the intent to win. That's truly what matters. So principles. And what's great is that we can create our own principles to live by. And within those principles, we can put habits, we can put actions, we can make them true to ourselves, our values, what's truly important to us. But living through a set of principles is something that we can always go back to whenever we get a little bit confused and we don't know what to do. What are my core principles? What are my core principles? I can always fall on that, and it builds your identity also. Oftentimes when we get lost is because we don't have an identity. We don't have an identity. So create your core principles, live by them. If you need to adjust, adjust. But I find that the more you stick to something, you get better at it, you develop it, you adopt it, you become it. Okay? You truly become it. Great things usually happen. So with that, I'll pass the mic.
So amazing, amazing. So the gist of whatever you want to, what all of us are talking about today in the storm that we're experiencing right now. Envision that you're a ship on the ocean, and there's a storm, a wicked one, level whatever the top level of a storm is. We're going through it right now. In order to get to your destination, you you must lean in on a North Star. You must find one. You must go back to fundamentals of how the ship works. Um, Everything you've trained for, everything you've done. Your rudder must be in place. You can't let the ocean shift you. You must the set of your sail, as Jim Rohn, one of my favorite person, would say. The set of your sail every day. You must get up and set your sail to the destination you want to go. Girls, if you just leave it, it'll get you wherever you end up. You end up. By the time this is over, this past, remember, we've gone through the Gulf War, we've gone through the pandemic, we've gone through recently all kinds of things, 9/11. We've gone through some times. Guess what? We've gone through them. But if you let your sail get wandered all over, you're going to wake up after this passes. You're going to wake up somewhere where you don't appreciate or you don't want. So set your sail. Do not drift. That's my message. That's if I'm gonna leave it a word is do not drift. This is not the time to drift. You may have drifted in the past. Do not do it now. You won't enjoy the outcome it's gonna take you. So my word then I just gave it, but be a bit more specific about it. Is be intentional. Please be intentional. Set yourself a priming technique that puts you in a state that you want to be in. Do not leave it to the ways of the world, the news, what's going on, your friends, the chaos. Do not leave it to that. Set yourself in a state. And does it mean you're oblivious? Unless you're doing something to change what's going on directly, then you don't have to become a part of it. You don't have to become a part of it. As a this is a time when you want to become the drop and not the ocean. You just want to stay in the game, get your head in the game, and I'll go to what Brandon said. He said, check yourself before you wreck yourself. All right. So check up on the neck up on a regular basis. All right. With that final word, I'll pass the mic to my cohorts here, and then we'll close the show out. What's your word?
Yeah, another great message and great time together. Um, my word's control, and I'll
Yeah.
expound on that. Take control. If you don't, you're going to be controlled. Whether you're taking
Amen.
control of your mind, you're taking control of your actions. You know, take control, or you're gonna. It's just like just out there drifting with the storm, right?
Mm-hmm.
Take control, face it head on, do what you need to do what you don't want to do sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, it's going
And
to do it. Otherwise, it's going to do it for you and toss you
amen.
around.
No decision is a decision, by the way.
That's right. That's right. Pass it to
Right.
pass the mic.
Right.
That's great stuff. My word for the day is lead. No matter
Mhm.
what your role is, you have value. You have something that you can bring to the table. Focus on leading where you are, how you are, and contribute. Okay,
Mhm.
but lead.
Amen. Amen. And I was going to add on to that what Brennan and you brought up about leadership. Remember, I don't care who you are or what position you think you have in a company or in your group. Everyone has influence. Everyone has influence, and that's leadership. You have some sort of influence. We have a dog right now. We got a dog during the pandemic, and that dog has influence in our family. So everyone has influence. Uh,
That's
with
right.
that, with that, everybody, thank you for joining us. Remember, during this time, please, if you know someone going through it, as my mentor would say, one idea, well executed, can change your life forever. So they just need one idea. Maybe this is the one idea they need, not to harm themselves, not to feel isolated, not to feel lost. This is why we're doing this. So like, subscribe, and share, and we appreciate you. All right. Until next time, we wish you, oh man, we wish you
A
peace in
lot of
your
it.
soul, love, a whole lot of love. The world needs it. And with a sprinkle of soul, baby.
That's right.
All right. Until next time, peace and love, everybody. We're out.